you guys seen Mark's MT and Montgomery Bell MT?
Yes.
Alright, and Jersey? Perfect.
What do you have for? Oh, I just put one down.
Can I check the email you put on the
Oh yeah, it said you're not.
What, like the 58?
Oh, because you put the two E's.
Oh, you should not.
Like D.
Oh. Recorded. Everyone else got it? Advantage one of social stability, public administration, threats to collapse of American society, only power unions and the working class can prevent violent escalation, Church 23. Much of it is society speaks of business variables will be governance, small innovation, with the equitable fortunes of response decline, despite growth, quality of life, physical and wealthy, which is the beauty, exactly, social security, the top of the use, as for institutions, millions for cooperative, drug culture, which climate, which social deficits, matter today, the truly, press public about this, why those America achieve all base prosperity, at least, learn from the support of the unity, set the same, global economic, life, fantasy, prosperity, virtue, but the ideal, the center of defense, of the working classes, the good growth, distribution, workers, and organizations, security, economic, issues, so those like my state don't seem prepared, and US breakdown goes global, and nuclear limits, and the key, and civil war, not in the American Civil War, role to show what is the world war with news will follow the other options, will be you will after you will think what events is created with the world, what is unity and unions are key to democracy, that it's 19 faith and voter need to be institutions, secondly, it's in to prepare democracy, workers and unions giving us over their workplaces is justified democracy as valid, freedom, economic accessibility, security, countries, wealth, corruption, well dispersed, power, good government, future democracy, which also is zero political realism, however, citizens have the US adopted to democratic council, the movement, the workers can only secure control by for unions, the United States Council, clash of productivity without unions, sovereign indispensable function by function of self-government, no plan rather than go turn to the unionization states with the highest unionization, highest turnover, increased turnover, increased over 100,000 to 50 million more Americans would have voted when unions or workers, working class citizens, numbers of looking to vote in US democracy stays off global authoritarianism and violence, 7, 22, but democratic values and priorities is beyond difficult, if the city to receive from better home, if democracy, 60, the polarization message to become critical, will be demoralized, shadow, nation has to be question needs to return to mutual tolerance, exposure, rebuff, authority, and supervision, or whether the wars will go get getting worse, which is support organization, strong encouragement, go with Democrats, draw home institutional lessons from one another, government that are not going to believe the distribution of claiming God between claims of reality, bridges of vulnerable, and accountability to fact of regards, American power of democratic purpose and extinction, Belfield, 23 took the station for the cooperative with human progress with use of precipitation war, when we were responding to precipitation war, like having words, this couple, maybe with the personalization, war, 16, like the situation to be detailed, the answer, baffles of all videos, coverage, progress, reduce quality, address coverage, address coverage, associated, right, incident progress, we should get your well-looking values in the future tag, AGI, space, and life center, intelligence, double locking, totalitarian world with risk, extinction, authoritarian surveillance, and S risks, minority, 20, S risks, also free health, something that time will be powerful of government, power, suffering, education, law, return, global security, reversing extinction, and independently, Trump 2.0 is coming down, will do irreparable damage, to church alliance collapse, and war, Taylor 712. Trump words will have the next over capture presidency difference over normal is with the next over to damage is not and magnitude away from those intelligence essentially US and wars because there's withdrawing troops and breaking less than people over to attack conscious analysis or even entirely the justice reason push back enemies going to see invasion of justice here and reason comes being able to break Americans say the problem of the system again Congress of the courts will struggle and those alliances spark great power and nuclear war may show some team. Depolitization of create opportunities for powers of large shifts to present problems such adding tons of new powers have a crisis of province circle which has a decaying region probably to be perceived as wrong with to believe that people won't even tend to take perception of the world and results in the laws of behavior as ready to further the chief test of vulnerability power and launches and the breach of physical loss and impacting the other areas without compartmentalizing the events you don't provide any sense of hesitation was perceived as affecting other teams not to believe others about what is released leaves but your reason don't have any separated failure would have war and ensures nuclear proliferation and extinction for being 17 if these guarantees security all to Mars and city intervention by power performance and then over to privacy provides some chance to with use given by Asia community with the president Pacific College bringing in responsive condition for warning single power and economic world communities economic capacity to worsen for disaster and the plan is a political solution that takes down Trump, Reader, and Gordon on 23. Because of economic civil jobs, we're giving political advantage to realize workers of far more jobs, less equal supporting federal job guarantee, the council will overall support the job guarantee, with the class correspondence, independent work with the only other positive the council parties is like new generation, my country, the opposition, so we actually increase that study to give us overall the federal job goes for 80 years, jobs given, as we charge you, but also keep receiving progressive agenda, and the jobs guarantee is one of the first work unions in the power of the class of 19. It is a little public work for the province council solution over the percent because the deputy and civil comes from other programs for people to striking over to go understand the public to participate in generally maybe decision possibility of posting benefits and class work with you with your automation works for the disposable career fix and uniform energy to with the firm physical which is literally good class with the during to clear out or learning to have social for two super years in the hand and MBA and only the plan solves due to current president the Janus decision and hampers the effective immunization dental 21. Like the United States and this work generation don't need from joint unions yes here steps for the juices for charge Congress has no permission for obligation is if it is national business one laws which subject to the market laws reduce rules have any race reduce increase for 7% of the company change for prior decisions only for culture and justice how to reduce all the first money decisions that are separate of justify Russian taxation minimum wage first United States of goal for the national laws the word of you keep the national human rights law evolve for Janus of issue can warrant not performance to the careers that exist to establishing numerous more likely because allows for national obligation and labor relations. It doesn't plan the for government substantially increase fiscal redistribution in the States by adopting the work through jobs guarantee, through a federal jobs guarantee, advantage to human rights current frameworks are recalibrated to fit Chinese interests that ensures a new system and media criticism of Griffiths 23. China's use for common human rights system reduces the question of what China says achieved is human rights mission which part of the system of China's worldview there is trying to leadership is really interpreted as a world presidency later belongs to the latter even the most opportunity putting more pressure because of the need to weaken the system of China's and that the positions of responsible there is different to China's game deceive is always generally welcome to train democracy and human rights when you reduce the rest of the government mind with the fact countries divided to China and common resistance and to say their proposition China's been ability to reaching food and some adaptation with something before action against the population coverage and it was being defeated by many others who remain physically to continue to cooperate with the place of resistance over civil society marked God as society and that causes extinction when 19 the PRC 20 was purposely to replace the national security PRC over how nation states British US common public evidence terrorism China also the other consideration and belief that it was extinction and rise up and it was willing to reduce the situation which war and indeed we will also much the world on this check the position piece of the rest on the PRC and LA collapse causes extinction Ferrari 20 used to extra collapse equal collapse and the respect of affairs and to by balance and for the right to travel way out into the use of the legal one caught Indonesia before collapse myself and opportunities to the community global communities committee new goals to prevent war collapse or regulate taxes difficult we as given to omnipresent war the rule is the war created those crucial are in the streets of new government to the order to other countries got the equal free views but will collapse our speech will not let itself the plan solved by interbreeding and climate rights human rights for creating consistent US policy domestically to create international program for Lee Griffiths 23 states contributors to domestic contributors to address challenges human rights to consume the trees norms and leverage the necessity of interpersonal work with comes to challenges to challenge taking upon under project problem reduce China to needed to reduce the state of military responsibility for physical rights is defended the nation about human rights agenda economic outcomes and human research with cultural choice and opportunity for development fashion is the station of focus is self-reflection part of the health of the message consider the focus is the next policy consider clarify how happens with the states and strong position to make human rights and deploy regulatory tools for decision accountability effectively on the way could be used for the manufacture obstructing some of the states need to domestically otherwise just domestic policy causes isolation this is when we get national leadership look at deficit 17 is difficult to take use of the human rights everything is considered international use of the EU possible domestic elections not substitute treats of the course for United States national distribution of laws when they really for existing domestic law mark the conduct of domestic law that ensures global war and makes every aspect inevitable last 20 and that's not an option global war to which we do have the better resources to the danger of every single across wars for cost to keep it with an awful key government problems with our own we need to go to a space to people making near which charges.
Okay. You good?
Yeah.
Adopt a right to work through a jobs guarantee. What is a right to work?
A right to work basically means everyone gets a job.
Okay, sure. What types of jobs does the plan adopt?
We haven't outlined specifics, but they would be in sectors of the economy. Actually, do you have
They'd
specific?
be in sectors of
Yeah,
the
I mean,
economy.
ideally, like we haven't outlined specifics, but the government would basically ensure that they would go and see sectors that need spending or need productivity, and they would target those.
How do they
first.
identify sectors that need productivity?
I mean, I'm not gonna like I don't know the specifics.
You don't
we haven't
know
really,
the
we haven't,
specifics of
we
how
haven't
the plan
really, we
works?
haven't really defined what jobs we've guaranteed. Our argument is
Okay, I guess. Plan. Who does it tax to fund the job guarantee?
actually.
Who does it tax?
Yeah. Who does it tax?
The-
What sources does it tax?
It would like use existing tax funding to implement the jobs
Oh,
guarantee.
what would it
Doesn't-
take the tax funding from?
Where is the tax funding coming from?
Yeah, you said it would take current tax dollars.
Well, the way any other program is funded by the U.S. federal government, it doesn't have to be streamlined by one tax. It is by U.S. government money, which
Well,
is
sure, but I
through
mean
a
the
variety
government
of
has
taxes.
the government obviously has a current budget. Where in the budget does the plan come from?
Well, a couple things. Like the program would be added to the current budget. It could be through a means of deficit spending in the short term that is then like
Tax
funded by
related.
taxes later, or it could just be through existing taxes that are reallocated.
Okay, sure, we'll take this. Not 36.
It's 10 off, then advantage 1, advantage 2. Okay, does everyone have it? Okay, sweet. First, the advantage held with the federal commission predicated upon necessity human rights protection now to abide by commitments to SDGs, substantially invest in research and development of carbon capture and storage, declined to confirm any non-democratic candidate in a national presidential election. Blanks 1 and 2 self-advantage issue that's 1 is secret to Roberts. Blank 3 self-advantage on death kit. Invocation of death impacts and necrophilia, obsession, body count, the incident, extinction, vote, negative, reject death practice, the gateway issue of 64. There are people who are different level of death, never feel like fascinated, all that is dead, and there are people who love to talk about death, and it says to or solve with love by the necrophos, and related to describing a verse or new, now to my life, living life from both measure, the only thing that life is a certain free person, think, but death leads to all things, but wisdom is meditation of life, that him to be touched by all that is life, and one is interested in people's object, increasing for your kind of fancy people, or unadministered that they were things, homo mechanics more fascinated by devices, that case, can kill me, as the men is like a purchase against particular one's job, far we have gone in valley, have another awareness of the pathological stage, which is that person, but people become aware they can produce a new direction, T taxes. Interpretation fiscal redistribution requires both taxation and spending. Hicks 86. Fiscal redistribution requires that redistribution money. Sorry, you want me to read this, Cheryl?
Skip that.
Okay. A-spec. The plan actually specify the federal branch carries out the plan. They do not succeed to aid in combat stable links and trade-offs and politics that reject the app. Portion. Taxation violates moral side constraints which justify the evisceration of all morality, but next reject portions. Couple 20. Side constraints really exist. No one can claim life of another. No one is how to use another as a tool to reject this, but they reject all morality entirely. Utility applies counterintuitive and results as utility monster gains utility for sacrifice of the moral required to sacrifice as such. Each person in and not a means otherwise they are not actual moral sacrifice rights. Ability the scope of the government, a lack of moral legitimate states operation or finance coercively via taxation. Psycho. At the after proceed of economic security, obscurity, and Germany field sacrificing in the constant endless war of negative recognize the drive of McGowan 30. The conqueror drive is roots in its Roman laws, and conquer territory to territory they cannot conquer rock on it. Welcome to the rights that societies go to war, do not constitute loss, pressure, primarily supplies an alibi for, and German we use the pleasure, and the companies bombing to slash shared over experience to lost their community, and probably be no end to war. The countries the U.S. plans to invade securities mythical attempts to bypass the experience of lost anarchism. The one is the invested so for resolution of regionalized social crisis in the sovereignty of this failed model guarantees war, viable destruction, climate change, extinction, but for autonomous collective organizing politics, question that refuses to answer given by the state of Halloween 21. We live in a failed state over system result of the destruction by doing random is warming the substance money as a measure of value and quality fashion tensions between the humans are like seeing how do we get out of here the traditional action through the state is the only party. It is not where the state is not I think my capital state is generally capital state is obliged to promote accumulation and democracy and by responsibility and they take over most politics for example not just talking radical but no point is abolition that is hard to not to think state is where angels like give up answers cannot be opposing and it creates a state as a negotiation because of hitting each never exists world politics question is different politics and asking us creation of a different society we have the 70s and radical council the current movement millions organizing and hierarchical based it is not to this state the only game there is doing things ourselves collectively if we reach extinction will be our fault if we not take private state responsibility for life states count on. The 50 states and relevant territories should establish and implement an interstate agreement to abolish and balance budget requirements, create reserve bank system, adopt the right to work through a job security and interstate agreements, solve economic equality, avoid federal sabotage, to solve suits the act, Michael 23. Economic equality is written out, is having a Europe long there is published for those in playing a role in economic creditors, other market economy, interstate agreements can bring together a community non-connected communities possible states, that share common vision and share markets for labor, create an interstate government, create administrative structure, procedure, competence, and sabotage, and potentially pose it to trap a regulatory process, interstate administration more, and expert democratic, legitimate, could adopt a proposal that industry for agency the federal level and partisan slavery partisan officials and bodies emphasizing courts and agency Congress after against disparagement and disparagement and sabotage to be an administration may circumvent federal pathways to improve economic conditions for economic justice against racism, water cross-border fishing and drones, economies of scale following the risk of economic downturn, big solve all independently boosting economy, avoiding budget trade outs at 9. 50 state solutions for city run a limited deficit for purpose of funding and countercyclical stimulus reserving using power fractional reserve spending conserving much more money than keep people buying money. How many times over actually allowing the state borrow money in order to deficit without relying bottom? Agencies they could use these loan much cheaper than overdue bonds, given essentially paying interest to help maintain public service and public works and stimulus. CR dissent. A continuing resolution will avoid shutdown passed now by partisan basis. The plan is a poison for parties that cause massive backlash for 860. Congress left to pass a shorter voting bill to avoid shutdown. Congress don't have enough time to reach a full year deal streamer. And yet, Member McCarthy agreed to pursue a CR relevant colleagues idea. However, we're going to bipartisan. We got to agree on the policy of the House seeking to relax federal presenting on attached government conservative. A policy works in the Senate is avoiding opposing bill. Congress regularly appointed the deadline to belong to the rules when each year floated. A bill I follow this year later the plan fans the favorite GOP rage ensures to shut down the process Wise 95. Republicans are on reckless spending by about make sure we're sure to claim it. And of course, White House and a budget concession. We need control when I study the budget fight. It's not new calls for more serious spending when it comes to GDP or rally against the topic of measure the set down is first as exact breaks Leonard 96. But it was funding for health workers passing money with those who now put bottom on Dios heads and respiratory physicians and shut down on hammer average attempt out outbreak cities and blue surveillance system which shut down the SHS expected for about 40% numbers were for extinction diabetes with you. We have to plan how to face the next pandemic more pandemic starting exists in human pandemics could result in complete shutdown civilization and extinction of the weak new so the limitation could be by weakening antibodies covered in hopes us we'd be sitting on a time out of millions of other rights are waiting with the name of the existence of other habits of planet Earth. If you want to read, you just get it. Econ is said. No recession now. Why 726? Fed believes the U.S. will recession can result in recently and no longer forecast recession underscore how much inflation is coming out. Unemployment rate flat to the U.S. and the U.S. will avoid recession projecting rebound. The plan includes economy born key. JD would crowd up private sector under JD salary with some of you pay more because they're living that they receive easier work like you go and not be judged by efficient crowd as acute after downsurge by setting wages more and investment in will reduce workers man have also reduced efficiency productive infrastructure costs will lie waste reserve invest lower have value ventures lower productivity temporary jobs and operate skill to improve extinction burst 16. More without a persona, a strong U.S. sentiment, never knock out by contractors, U.S. invincible to trigger limits, aggressive war. The party, hurry numbers of condemnation of the U.S. China, Russia, and new Cold War is not level in emerging tech come online. Lack of truly global firm could be dangerous. And there's no government side U.S. leadership, the Nigerian drugs that they buy NATO. And the rules, risk, and activities T and Durban violation. Redistribution requires taxation and spending the planes. Only transfer which violates Bernal 12. To achieve redistribution, the government collects taxes and then makes expenditures cash for the public goods, collecting taxes and making expenditures change in primary distribution of income and the post-tax. The post-tax secondary distribution is counter impact of taxation spending vote negligible limits. There's an infinite amount of transferable mechanisms, including the research burden and ground taxes, ensure controversy and large changes that go both heat and ground case. Civil War is funny, but no, here's data Bible 22. Civil wars have a lot of violence, extraordinarily like the data cover the low income communities. You can see these models of American insurgency, American black classes, etc. So, civil war and ethnic preparing them more than 1 in 1,000 turbulent violent bullets, products of are not automatic violence sites, avoid violence, horror movements, and clients direction. A few things are harder. And then insurgency against the state, FBI disrupts the militias, private sector backlash, just makes Burger Chart of 18. They running as private into avoiding country and will prosecute fund over privatized challenges, serious states resisted, Harvard 20. And poor private against states may disrupt cooperation with federal government. Unions are high, coal against 21. And the wicked voting use had overhead negotiate wages, benefit strike. And about tens of thousands are on track to unfortunately unions is on this program. The last thing is employees have been put by soaring profits, the reciprocal civil war, political economies are finding employees, but also replace them with community. But immigrant workers rethink values on shortage of workers, giving unions confidence they can walk off employees offer more better training, quality of life, mark the card at life. There's no democracy in Black North with 19. Book relies hundreds of authorities as rewarded at pizza week, no correlation is that monarch levels inclusive 8,000 articles, signatures, conflicts, very determinacy, different no device, so evidence democracy more peaceful in general. Everyone after including democracy is spurious and peace only exists when both have a high development of wars, and democracies are more likely to fight each other with war vessels made by contiguity allies, economy, just democracy. No studies. People have been saying that Trump's existential for 8 years, currently 20. Trump's not a very good accidental that is DNC called the president accidental failure about leadership lost line I got no service about the fate of America heard same jury true in 26 and less than I rolled Republican name and throughout for years and a forecast for high probability and many of those confidence of Burger Promise by Harley first intel voters aboard Wood and the Boston Globe and ran an entire apocalyptic front cover of an issue. No impact to hedge class by YCD. South America, Africa, Europe would be unaffected. Russia and China and the troops will not alter confidence territories unrelated to wealth of Russia given for new trade. China's rule time on the directional centers be so long arms and search Russian imperial it's forming all one trade dialogue orbiting and hard to identify hedge exists without leaving trace another spending around for this grand China matter and high quality Obama. Let's see that's has a percent for susceptible best protection US exaggerated degree power matters.
Oh wait, did you send out the piece?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Do that. Can you reply to the one that they sent for the
Yeah. The second 1AC?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
If you could put the whole one in.
Okay. Is it right? Okay. Sent. Both things are sent.
No, no, yeah. Could you send the whole one in C to that?
I did.
I just got it. Cool.
That's,
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Raleigh.
yeah.
Status?
Status quo is always a logical option.
Can you kick blanks?
Side.
No, we can kick the whole thing or none of it.
Okay. Net benefits to the Advantage current plan, state's current plan.
Econ, politics for both.
Okay. And how is econ net benefit to states?
Econ's not net benefit to states. Politics for states, advantage counterplan, politics, and econ.
Okay. Coercion, what is it? Is it a procedural? Is it a dissent?
This is dissent.
Okay. What's the uniqueness for it?
It doesn't have to be unique. You wouldn't say that.
We'll make impact
other
forming
instances of
arguments
violence
in a
are-
block that
Well,
say
dissents
the
need to
direct
be-
consequences of the plan or what should be.
Okay, sure. I guess death K, you've also indicated death impacts. Why?
Sequencing question of testing the plan, plus it's a new app. You have to win that your
Okay.
representations are good. If you win that, then we'll win that even in your world of
The
representations.
born
you still
evidence? Okay, that's fine. The born evidence on the econ dissent, I guess what's the warrant?
There's a few links in there. The first is crowd out. The jobs guarantee would mean everyone leaves the private sector for the public sector jobs. The second is that there's no efficiency criteria within the public sector jobs, which means they won't be productive and boost the economy. There's also, there's all the links in that part.
Yeah, I mean the productivity thing is also definitely true. Just like given cross-sects, right? Like they would put it where it needs to be productive. How they decide that? No
Okay.
idea. They can't.
I guess you've said that. I guess the union's high stuff. I guess why is post-COVID unique?
The Colburn evidence says that after COVID, workers kind of got like an upper hand on their employers, that they were able to negotiate like wages and benefits. I mean, it like
Everything shut down after COVID.
well, it talks about like post-COVID after like the first the collapse like of workers during
They got
COVID,
to-
and then it says
there-
after that they were able to negotiate better wages and benefits.
There were massive labor shortages.
There's no
Like,
unique happened in the one I
yeah.
see.
Employers
I guess
were
the-
desperate to, appease workers.
Advantage kind of plan. It's R&D into carbon capture and storage. I guess what does that look like? Where do you get the funds to invest from? The government, right?
Yeah,
So from the budget, just straight up?
just deficit spending.
Deficit spending? Okay. I guess you've said, I guess how do you decline to confirm any non-democratic candidate in a national presidential election?
We
does that
just
work?
wouldn't approve them. Like,
Yeah. I mean, the vice president could like refuse to authorize the results. That'd probably be normal meetings.
yes. I mean, there are like a
You
number of
just-
ways the government.
Has that ever happened before?
No, we fiat that happens
Okay,
right
sure.
now. I mean, it definitely can happen.
I guess announce and abide to commitment of SDGs. What are those?
The Sustainable Development Goals.
What are those?
They're agreements to become like sustainable based on like a number of countries around the world agreed that they would abide by like the list of priorities to becoming a more sustainable society. The counterpart has the U.S. abide by those commitments.
It's being sent. The order is advantage 1 social instability, advantage 2 human rights, T taxes, A spec, coercion. The advantage counterplan. The state's counterplan. Psycho. Anarchism. Death K. Econ. Politics. Okay. 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 Civil war ensures extinction, spills over globally due to geopolitical interests, that's tertiary alignment. Yes, civil war doesn't assume rising tension between the working class and elite. Yes, all of these states are preempted and no backlash because the private sector gets skilled workers and no impact to either authoritarianism and ensures extinction, causes global war and prevents and crisis response as Belfast independently authoritarian infused AI surveillance which causes mass global suffering outweighs extinction. That's the minority evidence which one we can see the unions are high churches from 2023 prefer says that unionization is declining. Yes, democracy doesn't assume authoritarian takeover as the alternative to democracy. It just says that democracy broadly can't solve. They've dropped the Trump scenario, line shots, ensures extinction, authoritarian program, and cause great power nuclear war, which is initial evidence. Alliance withdrawal cause extinction by global nuclear proliferation, nuclear miscalculation. That's Rubini, which means they can't all go for the state's counterplan or the advanced counterplan, which will be below human rights. A new Chinese order causes extinction, the power shift causes nuclear war and prevents governance and climate inequality, epidemics and terrorism. That's weighing independently collapse of the ILO, causes tech arms racing and global instability, which results in extinction. That's Ferrari. That waste evidence is AF evidence. It says that multilateralism is better, which the AF fosters through the LIO. It isn't a hegemonic structure. They've also dropped isolationism. It causes extinction. It makes every existential risk inevitable by having the U.S. retrenched. That's Haas. T. First is Weemy A, sexually is most precise and prevents intervention. B is functionally the plan would be funded by a tax. The plan is not pre-funded by a tax, but increases taxation. Sure, but the 18 programs cannot be pre-funded by a tax and collector reflects on that. Varies with the economy opposite of recession when tax decline pre-fund is impossible. C and can mean or garner. 95 authorities agree jointly with several meaning of and is usually several. Second is counter interpret. There are two separate modes of fiscal redistribution, tax and transfer. Just go at 17. Fiscal redistribution of course not one piece difference will be the two modes of redistribution, tax and transfer. We put the tax and the part by transfer redistribution is more productive transfers than taxes in the U.S. 36% of redistribution is achieved by taxes being replaced by transfer of weapon of redistribution. Third is prefer A's predictability. However, is from the most advanced data set. Fiscal redistribution determines that it can be either B's Afghan pigs force after defensive, two different what he sees. Linkage key is always fake or F on the top with a 54% next. Win rate C is functional limit states, politics K is Bitcoin, inflation and tax terms, etc. All check C. D is no ground loss tax. D is just replaced by deficit spending / MMT bad. D is A spec. First is leaving where the U.S. federal government, second impossible 2 months. Parts to spec B, non-spec is good. A is pigs, they start to Afghan pigs, fairness, AR, 60% win rate, block version, content unpredictable, 1 is C4. Is no offense, other spec solves, FGG, USFG, should and fiscal, 5 is in counter term, normally they get links to Diaz, but not positioning competitive counterplans, coercion, no link, we don't increase, the mandate doesn't increase taxation, we just reorient taxes, and the AF outweighs freedom is inhibited with authoritarian takeover. The advanced counterplan first is perfect, but no, all cause and issues, link second, permanent counterplan justified because multi-plane counterplans are voting issue, that's predictability, green light, terror, fairness, third is permanently and any combo of planes, combos of better done allows returns Q from contradictory arts and makes every counterplan nervous option text or research and clash go to is you will put time into offense because the will kick it, dispo solves the job guarantee advantage. You cannot solve it, elections can't solve due to lack of economic mobility. Solving for unions is key. It's one half that they cannot solve for, which is 11. Evidence A is unions solely the job guarantee creates a social leverage capable of mass unionization to prevent civil war and democratic backsliding, which is a cause to evidence B is Trump only the plans guaranteed full employment can provide Democratic Party support to prevent alliance collapse and proliferation. That's Rainer and Gardon and their plank links more to Trump because it can't solve for public perception of the election. It only solves for the mandate of the election. Sees human rights absence of plan the right to work life stable enforcement capable of fulfilling international commitments and calibrating domestic policy. That's Wilkin and the Griffiths evidence. They also can't solve advantage 2. A human rights. The right to work is key to uphold all human rights. 19. The right to work is fundamental. The right to work is human rights. 1 is construction and anxiety is inherent and cannot be accepted. Benefit or freedom to the political rights or internally economic rights. Number rights is indispensable. Right to demand employment is important after everyone has income. continue the autonomy of will, right to access life, the harder right to protection against termination, prevent arbitrary termination without valid reason, the force of protection of the union play an important role in the right to work. B is unions the plan redefines right to work. They cannot overturn the James decision, which means it doesn't solve the state's counterplan. First is permanent both, still slowing. Second is permanent counterplan. Third is permanent counterplan, and then we get to the peak sequencing. Now, time from four states can't solve. A is unions, the James decision of obstruction, which was above. B is Trump. The counterplan would be incorporated into progressive campaign. It wouldn't be seen as a progressive federal government win, which means it can't solve Trump 2.0. That's Raider and Gordon. C is human rights only federal option can align the U.S. with international treaties, which was also above. Uniform 50 state fiat as a voter age rule, no policy would ever have all 50 states contest one single policy topic. Controversy is centered on how fiscal redistribution should occur, not the best factor. B is Afghan at uniform fiat runs impossible to garner sovereignty. Justice C justifies multi-actor fiat. That's a voter. The second, okay. First is framework evaluate the desirability of the plan. Okay, must have unique links in the solver alternative to impact states fairness. They change the central question in debate, which means the 1EC and B's clash their inferior are frameworks of 1EC part question, which are impossible to prepare to defend. Second is perms do both. Either they all overcomes the link or it can't be the link to any existing fiscal program. B after non-mutually exclusive parts of the all sees after the lens of the all. Third is no link can turn inherency to prove the desire or the lack for. They preclude genuine solutions. Single 22 half-baked to being into that's spread just by lack of better benefit. And they're failing to replicate sizable chunks of the psychological findings may be false. Will never solve issue of learning on because I have to. Conception in human history is with context in history give way to agencies, desire giving way to the idea that people's behavior is driven by subtle forces. 5 extinction outweighs the only irreversible impact. 6 all fails doesn't solve the aft. B doesn't solve the links. The anarchism, the cross-supply framework across and no length the aft increases unionization, which enables grassroots movement and the military crush of the revolution. Hananya, 20 military kits will like many outshines the power U.S. Civil War, including military tech, women, rifle, 1.3 million personnel cut. The Carta personnel, the death day of the cross-supply framework. Second is ingrained in society. Turn on the news, you see disasters. Third, they linked you. They also indicated death. Third, death impacts are good for career 11. Like consider especially sickly. Once we disaster is long for informs the community's compassionate and requires catastrophe to call forth the strength of the desire and after the public response to disaster time. 11, Hurricane Katrina, Virginia, tech consumption of disaster to make it unable to engage with disaster when the world starts to be used to anticipate real threats like climate change and inequality. The BizCon is down, raise inflation, student loans are calling bankruptcy. 988 rising U.S. bankruptcy, raise the economy, fetish having one. 10, tightening campaign now the negative effects in case of black science very squeezes spreading the whole small. The medium-sized business bank 34 commercial finance, August elevated interest rate, price inflation, and consumption has been lower prices held. Headwinds causing stress. S&P reported 64 new bankruptcies. Second is term economic crisis in Naples, 20. The economy first crisis of and Eurozone crisis followed 08 proceeded 9/11. The Cold War default stagflation crisis the norm financial markets remains double the cyber tech risk of war. Looms the next crisis strike the system already under strain. Of course, we couldn't quickly create crisis diplomacy resilient system to avoid restoring a resilient adapt the system prevent tipping points. The card tipping point be only job guarantee solve turn of 18. The economy into recession already sent new firms leave. Market while spending increase or recession and failed to produce strong or to the JG and place workers transition without the JG phase. Uncertain cost that curve that ripple effects result in the vicious cycle. Cut the card of vicious cycle politics. First, a non-unique crossing into zona 9-7. Second, very likely to have GOP over the 5% to McCarthy reach to make it easier to fund the government deadline properly. President Tesla, the rising lobby proceeded to advocate on the policy issue affecting health. Ukraine supported by the Senate Republican divided. The House GOP, McCarthy agreed to seek the House and Senate over 135 billion per year. Republican senators feel it will be impossible to bridge that bridge the right wing naked. Now the speakership just one member. Cut the card just one member. Second is no one could turn. A is workers of potential job for career with this bill will be followed to key constituencies central to both parties' agendas. That's one easy reader and Goshen, and that determines congressional support costs of settle 19. Politics and the public pay attention to the same political issues, public coalition, and protect each other from labels to lead agenda cost finding communication politician ability to be public agenda cost and response to change the attention by a party supported finding is generalizable. B's winners win cane and 20 live feel that demonstrates spending too soon momentum. If you see the more you exercise, the more you have of it.
I'm good for Josh.
Okay. I want to start on T. The second argument you made, does the AF increase taxation?
Does the AF increase taxation?
Yeah.
We think that in the future it could, as a likely result of the plan.
So, okay.
The Cherneva evidence indicates that during
right. So,
times of
so you made the argument that normal means of the plan would not be funded by tax right now, but it would be funded by tax later.
Yes, that's what the Cherneva evidence indicates would be likely.
Yeah, makes sense. The and or distinction, why is it relevant?
The and or, it means that your evidence can mean that it can be taxes or transfers.
Our evidence says that it requires taxation, or it requires spending funded by taxation. Why is the word and relevant to that?
Well, spending funded by taxation can mean that, well, first off, that means like we meet the first.
Okay, so the and thing we can just disregard, right?
I mean, if you
Okay,
read definitions of
Econ
law,
has said
then
the
it has to
uniqueness
go.
of talks about bankruptcies, doesn't make a claim that those bankruptcies will collapse the economy or cause a recession. Why do those bankruptcies cause recession?
Yeah, sure. The stolen evidence is broadly about a quote red flag being raised in an economy that is
Sure, there are plenty of red flags. None of those red flags are sufficient to collapse the entire economy like the plan does. Why do bankruptcies collapse the economy?
Yeah, so the stolen evidence is making a broader claim about the fact that the current rate squeeze is hurting businesses and that they would likely
Okay.
businesses are obviously key to the economy. They're
Okay, right, but this card does not make a claim that these are sufficient to collapse the economy, correct?
it doesn't say that it will collapse the economy.
Okay.
No.
The Zoellic evidence is about global shocks and global recessions being inevitable. The Cherneva evidence is about a domestic jobs guarantee. How does the app solve global recessions?
Sure. So the recessions it's talking about are mostly on the US side, but it also solves for the US recession, which your impact is about. It's about US decline. Your link evidence is
Sure,
about
but
US
if you've made
economic decline. Obviously, if we solve that, then we turn this out.
Okay, the Cherneva evidence. Why does the app solve recessions?
The Cherneva evidence indicates that with a job guarantee in place, when a recession happens, people are able to file into the job guarantee, which solves for unemployment, which allows spending to increase, which
Why
allows
is
us to get
why
out
is
of the
consumer
recession.
spending key to the economy?
Well, the Cherneva evidence indicates that spending increases or consumer spending is the key internal to raise
Okay.
us out of a recession.
Okay, the politics has said this public perception term is obviously ridiculous. Why does the House Freedom Caucus care about what the public thinks?
Yeah, the Rader and Gardon evidence indicates that both parties are interested in appealing to the working class, like Trump and Biden are both trying to gain them. They're swing voters. Obviously, if they want to gain voters, they will do policies that are perceived as
Okay.
popular with those voters.
936.
econ dissat. Social instability. That's okay. Okay, were you good?
Wait, sorry, you said it's just admitted one at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Okay.
You finished counterplaying kick at purpose test competition, project the argument on team condo. We get what we did, and no twin counterplays kicking planks. One next flex topic is massive. It includes healthcare versus the topic, actually tax transfers, community distance, and every AF is built to link turn econ, try out for multiple options to test the AF from multiple angles, especially when AF stand back their best offense still to receive to arbitrariness. The AF can always find a marginally more debatable interp, which lays to neg every debate, punishment to the crime just made. The counterplays dispo 3, logic and policymaker would weigh multiple options to go with the best key to predictability 3 or 4 new AFs to rather screw the neg and circumvent pre-round prep and in-depth clashes to research like the team, and at least defer neg on competition models and condo questions. Defense 1 DMU, adding more advocacy speaks in value until their strategic liabilities to skew and contradiction inevitable. T dishead speed highlighting framework and case. Dispose bad 1 definitional consensus there is none. 2 force furnace process counterplans and world peace planks. 3 they cancel flex. 2 EC dictates to block. 4 research inevitable. The transfer's best argument. The 2 EC will always go for it. And turning dishead solves. 5 condos versus creativity. As was found a needle and he stack 1 AC the piece generics and to research more straight turns. 6 dispo 2 EC counterplans evade their offense. 7 illogical forces the judge to vote for a world worse than the status quo. Dex predictability. Multiplying counterplans are a reason to reject the argument on the team, especially when we're only able to kick the entire counterplan at once. Econ is it. Economic shrink outweighs one transition. When China and Russia lead to prominence, they challenge the American system. Historically, wars follow. Turns their LIO scenario and access is hedged better. 2 emerging tech. America solves regulatory escape, which otherwise allows geoengineering, drones, synthetic biology, and nanotechnology, and artificial intelligence to run amok and risk catastrophe that turns their AI scenario. 3 cooperation. Only an American rules-based order can destructively lower the risk of conflicts and ensure alliances remain intact. Turns alliances that's burrowed. Turns Trump 2.0. Bergen 19. Slow growth increases right-wing extremism. Data 16 countries for past decades. So slow 1% decline in growth increases right-wing parties by 1 plus causal, reflecting growth on extremism. Also turns LIO because right-wing populists are isolationists. Economic decline turns democracy. Potter 21 growth makes us tolerant, enhances social mobility, and increases commitment to democratic ideals and institutions in the economy. Shrinks people distrust democracy, stagnation breeds authoritarianism, depression, approve nationalism, and fascist dictator stagnation. Decline of democracy are also strong in the lane class. Collapses alliance cooperation deterrence and causes isolationism. Free big aid with financial system control. Geo strategic dominance likely to diminish. Scale force protectionism will blow. Foreign policy challenges multiplying Russia's military insurance prosecuted for which conservative America pull back from lead to dangerous vacuum president to Asia could be at risk of retreats in the 30s when finance growth is to a halt. Democracies fail to cooperate and aggressive powers goes up. Rogue states may become now reckless nuclear toys. No recession now. 1 soft landing. Previous hikes are bringing inflation under control while keeping assets and GDP growth in Goldilocks territory. 2 is recent resilience has spurred increased investment, further stabilizing growth prospects. That also answers BizCon. That's gold boil. 3 market consensus 11.97 soft landing. More and more economists are convinced it's going to happen. Stacks for the odds of recession at just 50% down for 35. Inverted yield curve something is off to the high likelihood rates will come down. Bond investors betting recession is coming, which means the Fed will lower rates to reduce a recovery. Yield curve inverted in July, yet the economy is humming. This economy is built different after the pandemic. We've entered a point of strength, best shape in 50 years. Yield curve not predicting a recession, just inflation back to normal. Businesses are confident. Marshall 9.7. Businesses are confident. Outlets goes into the fall and 77% optimistic. Distributed despite 2D resiliency demonstrated since the pandemic. Confident in their ability to run their business and focus on what they can control. Business confidence rebounding. Go to late 8. This confidence edge up to an 8-month high in July because with inflation fell to the lowest levels in 2 years. NFIB rose to 91.1, hitting the highest level since November. Disinflation. Increasing with businesses record the ability to at least pessimistic views
view that is welcome news to the Fed. Rate hikes appear to be moderating demand for credit. Nobody read BizCon heated the economy, since it's not a complete uniqueness. Warrant to take out the disad. Zolig says that the global crisis is inevitable, not relative to U.S. decline, which is the only internal link to our impact. That's Burroughs, but they also can't solve global decline because there's no spillover or U.S. key to the global economy. More now answers Zolig warrants here one by one. Though one, the lag effect is a myth. Calhoun 23, the fact is Fed funds rates are little correlated with inflation. There's no log of variable lag. Freeman articles unreadable today. Freeman's lag. There's a lack of coherency. Systemic lag is an argument for policy. Listen, the lag is accepted as a fact given, although no one seems to know what it really refers to. Monetary policy has no effect on inflation within the range of normal policy arrangements. If you look at the correlation between the Fed funds rate and the CPI, the pattern emerges not a existence of a lag. The Fed funds rate is essentially uncorrelated. There's no effect on inflation. Inflation leads and policy lags. The R squared value is essentially zero. The Fed is a less slow to respond because it's a policy that has no effect, no cyber impact. On Argon 22, the negligible role of cyber in Ukraine comes out as a surprise. Relations, statistical analyses and studies found little evidence cyber cost escalation. 100 instances occurred. None of it triggered escalation. No co-conductor based cyber South. Response minimal. The U.S. relied on diplomatic action to manage the destruction. Cyber states always been contained below conflict. Adversarial powers routinely assert the fire break between cyber and military operations. Zolig doesn't say that cyber attacks are coming, just that they are literally possible. Means that it's not a complete argument against this. Disad no market complexity or financialization. Certainly not enough to collapse growth. Trend 19. Diversity of financial institutions contributes to resilience. 2008. Diversity helps sustain market liquidity. Resilience in liquidity. Allocate risk to support stability. Banks act in a pro-cyclical manner. Insurance companies play a stabilizing role. The act in a counter-cyclical manner. Counter-cyclical behavior stay resilient in crisis. Help reduce frequency and severity. No warrant for why Eurozone causes collapse of the U.S. or global economy. Seasonal recessions are small, not short-term, and they're tempered. The plan not only causes an instant depression, worse than any recession since the 1930s, but also makes growth structurally impossible down the line. It means we can't recover like we do from normal recessions. The link-turn plan destroys productivity in ways that outweigh the link-turn. One, crowd out. Workers abandon the private sector for unproductive public work. Two, activists demand higher wages justified by the guarantee, forcing layoffs from crucial jobs. That's born both dropped into a C. No new 1AR answers. 3-person incentives. Administrators see key projects undone, provided buffer for future unemployment. Doing productivity. Couple 13. Jobs doing create a buffer. Future unemployment. The public sector releases an understaffed function was also important. The public sector doesn't bother itself. The private sector doesn't want to do. The public sector would understaff itself and use unemployment not to stabilize, but as cheap labor delaying essential maintenance until there were enough unemployed for distortion. Concentrates private sector labor and unpredictable costs of the economy. Capote 17 study indicates by changing employment in favor of the non-tradable sector, the public sector can make the economy less productive. Private sector has an incentive to pay more workers to produce more. The objective of the public is not profit wage setting outside of productivity. Public sector wages higher and more homogeneous. Crowding out can be more than the number of jobs lost. Probability of finding a job high. Workers prefer a way to find a job. The wage funding affects the difference in performance. 5, bureaucracy pumps workers in unproductive jobs and kills tech innovation. Standing 18, identifying jobs in industry will be a bureaucratic nightmare. Jobs are unproductive, denied services, there will be substitution, dead weight. JT bureaucracy for low productivity, you guarantee the job. Why work hard if you give an employees wide way use labor efficiently, which cheapen low productivity jobs and inhibit high productivity from tech. An employer wishes to invest in technology to remove jobs. Tech innovation advance growth. LCB 22. Innovation is the main driver of growth. New products for the economy is based on tech progress. Financial empirical list shows that innovation is critical. Critical catalyst is entry source research related to innovation. No, the other link to the Geneva thing, those in charge of the plan can't never stabilize enough to enough of the economy to outweigh the link. 1, info overload. Production complexity stymies administrators. Too much info to sift through. Sleazy 12. We need to maximize all goods and services. Plans have a ratio. We need to complete knowledge of physical exchange. Complete knowledge of productive capacity requires to disaggregate goods from everything. Is substantial. Parts of it have different tech that needs to be taken into account. The numbers are over huge flaws. Too good to be useful information. Recipe for distortion. People will straight up lie. No good way of dealing with this. The productivity stuff frozen egg. Anyway, we have comparative evidence measuring the output of the private sector versus the public sector. That's the born evidence from the 1 and C. Geneva was marked way too early for a war before a warrant, so they can't go for the link turn, especially after dropping the link. Social instability. There's no civil war. The only 2C answers that it doesn't cite the current climate. That's wrong. The 1C cites statistics about politically divergent climates, and it does assume division in the current one. There's no civil war. Apathy is more likely. Liquor 18, the United States treating to a civil war. No, it doesn't conflagration quite a bit more than the real one. We have no reason that this will change the country. As the vast majority is politically apathetic, disconnected, turns inward toward their private lives. More discussed by politics, likely aroused by war. Only access to information it remains a largely speculative force. It's a country on the verge of the civil war. Unions, they are high. It does assume the post-COVID landscape. 1 is political will. Biden's been advocating for unions. 2, profits. There have been rising so companies can afford benefits. 3, COVID workers have reconsidered priorities, demanding more, and a structural shortage for labor means that employers are keen to meet those needs. 4, data strikes have doubled in the last year. 5 examples. Historical settlements like Hollywood have been huge wins. The threshold is low. Each current win is galvanizing and generates cascading momentum. That's Colgan. Prefer him. None of their evidence is both post-COVID and makes a specific uniqueness claim about unions. Colgan is comparative to the past decades. They can't solve anyway. 1 is backlash. Private sector interest cause underfunding and privatization. Dooms both advantages. That's Geneva. Yes, backlash. The only 2AC answer was that workers get trained, which is wrong. Training is a scam. Workers leave with 0 new skills. The contract make out like bandits. Mental 18. Undercover investigation. The government jobs training found a scam. Jobs training is a flop. Graduates work the same low skill jobs that they held before training. Contracts make out like bandits. Point building to do training by 50 abuse, lacking effectiveness. Positive numbers. Didn't be small. DOL taking bribes. Approved by contracts for gross employees training. Promise upon 100 Indian computer codes. Spend $2 million to pay 17 people. Results that bear out the most. Thorough assessment 200,000 over 4-year period. Found no benefit. Training for the disadvantage is negative. Market negative, I'm good.
We're gonna take that.
We have 7.
750. Start about 7:36. Alright. You good for this? Start on BizCon. The Friedman 8 card is about 2008 and says that a collapse that was happening at that time would like deck alliances. Why did that happen?
Well, 2008 wasn't big enough to deck all
But
alliances.
Friedberg
We-
is
well,
about
no.
2008.
We do think 2008 made the U.S. more isolationist, which proves our argument. But there's a huge link differential between 2008 and the absolute economic devastation
Sure,
in
but
the
your
long
Friedberg-
term
your
that you
Friedberg
caused that was conceded.
Yeah,
Also,
I'm
it's not
talking
this
about
one.
your Friedberg card, which indicates that in 2009, alliance collapse would happen.
Yes,
into
in
08.
2009 we suffered a recession and alliances declined, and the U.S. became more isolationist.
alliance
That
declined,
proves
that's
our
fine.
argument.
Okay,
Link
that's fine.
differential means that you do that more. You're worse for your impact.
Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about the Cherneva card, or I guess the answers to the link turn.
Sure.
Which piece of evidence have you read that says that if we were to go into a recession, not before a recession happens, but if we were to be in a recession, that a job guarantee wouldn't stabilize?
Well, we've read a bunch of things about why jobs guarantee is always bad for the economy. I think one of the really good that is 100% true. I mean, it assumes all
Yeah, it
economic
says-
conditions.
it
But
says
I
that-
think if you want me to answer your question,
Yeah,
I think the best argument for why it wouldn't be able to stabilize the economy in a recession is the Shalizi evidence. The government is literally incapable of finding productive output within the economy. There's too much information for them to synthesize and sift through in order for them to be able to make those decisions well, which means the government's
This
going to be throwing darts at a board, trying to make the economy more productive when it's not, but failing. I asked some prospects how they would do that, and you
this
said you
is
have no
about
idea.
like centralized planning. I'm
Yes.
confused why it applies to consumer spending.
Well, one, consumer spending isn't enough when productivity is low. We've read evidence that
Okay,
said, yeah,
I don't think you're evidence, but that's fine.
yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about the case. The Mitchell 18 evidence is about the Labor Department's Federal Job Corps training program. And it's specific to that program being a flop. Why does it apply to a jobs guarantee?
Well, I mean, it applies that flop to all federal training programs. You have no evidence that says the jobs guarantee would be able to successfully train workers. This card says that jobs training is a flop.
Like, this card is about one specific bill.
It's using that one bill as an example of why federal jobs training does not work.
Sure, but this bill didn't include specific mandates that create training. It was just a program. That
It was a federal program to train workers, and it didn't work.
Okay, that's fine.
The 2AC was literally just like the private sector gets skilled workers. No more warrant other than that.
That's fine.
So
Go to the second one, but that's fine. Let's talk about the Trump 2.0 card. The Bruckner 19 evidence says that the slow growth rates in 2019 would increase right-wing extremism. Did that happen?
yes, it says that empirically a 1% decline in growth increases the vote share for right-wing extremists by 1%. So it's linear.
310. 5. Okay, orders, politics, and psycho, or the case, let me check the order. K's in the order of psycho, anarchy, death. Then states, then coercion, and then T. Okay. Is everyone good? I got good.
I need to add a new cell. Sorry.
Alright. Consider risk of disease outweighs absent of fundamental federal government with gaps across the CDC, FDA, HS will tell us the outbreaks is spread uniquely bad now because of infection season, causes future new variants, while a circumvent burnout, collapse, civilization, turns case shutdown, shuts the app down, Bookman 95 because of general furlough, non-essential government employees, government program service and honor the SS could be overcome in 2013, shut down, commission service and process application, funding and settings for the existing but not enough program ability, set up is going to be effective, durable field is not solvable, guarantee plan pass, it cannot guarantee implementation if it's legally impossible. CR will pass now. One is mutual acceptance, is bipartisan. Given the currently policy makes conservatives agree Biden McCarthy cooperated enough to prolong shutdown that's more evidence to packaging with big public lives. Sweeten the deal, Lamar, now 19. The deal will get done according to Justice White House, Congressional White House. About the Brazil disaster for the border security and final letter. About Harvard opens to spend on no vote. Ukraine and the Sierra will take a dog one public's work that goes over Ukraine's own giving a pressure on the Republicans. About how to push running out economic sport through economic impact 3, ignore public buster. Diversion 9-2. McCarthy sees the bridge rates and the British shutdown trolling. Diversion 7 to 4. Lawmakers brought to warn them, but that trying to strong arm risk is likely more discreet. Bubbles already married the bar. Pretty well address on freedom Congress is hard. 4 is goodwill. McCarthy is a deep well of capital loyalists will unify past scattered agency members. Fair is not 11. McCarthy is built a deep wall of goodwill. The right that resistance face on his group is on a single constant impeachment. American loyalists remain strong as ever. 8 trial 90 votable. But I want to vote for the speaker 50 more times. McCarthy is built a lot of capital. Conservative 5 is in Senate. McCarthy offers a carrot to upcoming elections. Offer a stake by Ben to the 831. Their opponents at the Congress passage order by McCarthy. I got to get to know one members of modern companies to play it. A conservative angle the impeachment required to seriously could Hunter Biden think because one after shut down the middle of election they will try to avoid that at all costs. Their evidence says the HFC that's wrong. They're negating Chanel 830. Republicans voting on the shutdown. Trying to be sure they have no communication market. They don't think anybody wants to check Michelle. They said, well, the greater freedom of Congress mandate is they got that makes other Republicans only to already. I'm not saying the government open it up in obligation for the government member. Freedom of Congress said he doesn't think the shutdown is right course, but they'll talk about it. I'm the one that can move the ball forward. They change up the start of Afghan as well. When the wrong policy decision whether are going to place the ban. No link argument is wrong. The economic causes the Afghan causes a huge political fight is massive spending upsetting all factions, especially the Freedom of Congress who are key to pass this. Want to see why 7 does not assume the current political climate, which is for all polarization. McCarthy must walk a tightrope throughout their plan. Popular with public evidence, only popularity. Congress matters. The Freedom of Congress does not care what the public thinks. JG causes polarization and creating. Jim Party no longer will resolution Republicans every day for being a goal on president divide. Having a mindset for job security, job guarantees to all goodwill. Hasaki team political space for a large world jobs security program. We need a Congress to use all available political capital. Wrong. This had to read winners win against. Right is not involved with CR negotiation. Our league is not about political capital. They read a link term without an internal link. Biden wins thumb IRA debt ceiling. All this proven. It's also false to right to Government 21. It's unlikely men will hold about how about the future of the legislative identity. The legislative begins to assembly one is asking much of the massive lobby. A speaker for all kinds of land will be far from it. Psycho. Kick the K, permanency related testing competition. Everything else was answered. Everything else is not a reason. There's no offense on it. The anarchy K, kick the K, same thing as psycho, death, same thing as above. States kind of like kicking the states, permanency related testing competition. There's theories. A reason to make the argument, not the team. Coercion, kick, coercion, concede, extinction outweighs for the K. G. Topical ask must include both taxation and betting authority elements. You do not mandate tax to impacts. One is limits towards infinite transfer only half jobs guarantee for any type of worker, basically for anyone. And thousand new social security expansion like privatization, increasing independent like healthcare, disability enrollment for any demographic not currently included on immigrants, like immigrants, young global plus staff can clarify tons of money to like immaterial deficit spending, creating unable proper only forcing limited tax such spending solid. 2 is groundless opposition to redistribution based on economic cost of tax and political costs targeting high earners. Deficit spending do not exist. This has do not exist. The answer is 3C3D. 2C1A appendix vacuum is bad. 1 any app becomes topical when links the entire limits. 2 forces every shorter BT in case involves for the hardest and most time for speech is made. 4 3 allows after shiftedness and 2AC spikes out of impact turns in. This at 2AC 1B future taxes are nonsense. 1 it's a vaccine. They're not admitted the plan that most the lid off of limits. 2 is wrong. The debt ceiling keeps getting raised. It's serving inevitable payback. 2AC 1C the and argument is irrelevant. That was across 6 2AC 2 1 links for offense. Their interpreted blows lid off the transfer mechanism avoids their controversy or economic consequences of increasing tax keen in that ground. 2 precision disaster allowing they have to be either taxed or transfers makes no sense because inter resolution requires 1 of 3 mechanisms, all of which are transfers. Their term cannot and they cannot get guiding your debates because of not fit the resolution's construction. 2AC3A predictability 1 limits turn into any absolute. You cannot think of all of them. 2 were more predictable. 2A precision only have values for us of FR holistically and has a intention to distinguish FR alters both for primary distribution income by changing tax policy and the secondary distribution which account for transfers. B is plain meaning redistribution then goes reallocating the current distribution Mary Mubs or name. Total distribution reallocating the respect to other is that always guard as well. Ordinary is fundamental interpretation governs constitution statute their private names interprets about interpretation a non-divided high meaning half ground is wrong or interp solves it. After linkage key warrant like carbon dividends or VAT never loses tax base and no picks offense 1 and linkage key warrants it above 2 those debates are inevitable. It's easy for apps to admit why taxing is key to solve as well as possible for the negative Carter office of the after non-taxing functional limits are jokes. States do not pride enough econ ground and it cannot access politics because chances are tiny. Plus it automatically loses the endless after impact turns to politics. Their apps are so small lawmakers do not care about them. Cases of framework and extinction outweighs it. Link turn permed by every transfer ask econ distance are all that we have but they're not sufficient negative ground and they don't solve any of the limits offense and above. The impact turn includes the non-turnable impacts of the one is he can spam with all these tiny apps.
It's advantage 1, advantage 2, topicality, the advantage counterplan, the econ disallocation system.
Sorry, can you read that one more time?
Yeah, advantage 1, advantage 2, T, advantage counterplan, econ disallocation. Anybody not ready? Good.
Stability advantage concede no civil war and unions are not going for it, but they dropped the Trump scenario for the second straight speech. Alliances are full of cause extinction outweighs both this has because it's far faster and dropped it to link implicates politics, human rights. Dropped advantage outweighs both this has a collapse causes extinction in terms of every risk, ensures the terminal impacts to economic collapse, global war inevitable, which answers Stern's case, LIO independently of disease, which was the only impact on politics, which means they have no external offense, independently ensures isolation, which prevents disease response. T. We may functionally after initial study, we refund the after attacks, which means you don't lose any ground for big issues they have. In fact, fiscal redistribution, I'll concede the one on our definition because it says that fiscal redistribution is about allocating funds, which is a Webster definition, and that plain meaning outweighs because with the affirmative is we allocate funding to a job guarantee, which means we meet their interpretation. Big mistake reading that card, the one in our Archer evidence says programs cannot be pre-funded, but it would increase taxation, which takes out other limits of ground evidence since their links would still apply. Counter interpretation, tax and transfers are staying preferred Jesuit. They are professor of political economy and public finance as literature ingrained in the field. This card defines fiscal redistribution as not of one piece, but there are two modes of it: low limits, explosion, or ground loss, because you still get to read this as you want, either read to the tax or the transfer, which is proven by this debate. Predictability outweighs. I don't care what the topic should be like because there's no impact to debatability if the affirmative is predictably screwed in the first place. Drop side bias means you overcorrect for the affirmative sin. The negative has already has the higher win rate, but Hicks would kill absent. They would have to defend 2 when he sees with no linkage. Key warrant. Functional limits do check. One of our brushes off. States and politics are almost impossible to beat this year. No limits explosion. We only had 2 affirmatives because 99% of funding mechanisms are different taxes, data tax, robo tax, FTT, MAT, VAT, etc. We only have deficit spending, UBI, and federal jobs guarantee, which is 2 absent, no ground loss here. Limits to transfer mechanisms, there are links to transfer mechanisms to every half of deficit spending does have this has deflation. This is massive on this topic. Way in the world with the affirmative is only a transfer, picks out way on debatability. There's no linkage keyword this year in advantage campaigns. Solve linkage key. Also, the jobs training stuff, back on case. Jobs training, the plan injects skilled workers into the workforce, which helps businesses boost efficiency. Dirty 20. The data puts business efficiency, competition will prepare labor force, business depends on production workers, skills, productivity, market stability, FGG, balancing, profit center jobs, workforce, flexibility, market stable, companies to respond, stocks and policies, the private sector companies. Advantage counter plan, answering UF's good, and answering UF's bad, they're good, it's key to critical thinking. Hard debate is good debate because critical thinking is the only thing we leave the room with. Reject once you say back in theory, causes some crowd out, with true education and turns every single standard, they cannot go over this because it was new in the 2 and C, not introduced to the 1 and C, shouldn't have to answer it. Econ. After its case, not vice versa, I did that on a case, the client cannot control LIO collapse because LI collapse would obviously result in lack of trade, etc., which would cause economic strain in the U.S. The direction of the impacts is affirmative to negative, not negative to affirmative, but you need to have the F1 break comes to interest rates, higher inflation, and resumption of student loan payments are all destroying businesses. There are, say, about 64 bankruptcies in July alone. That's a dual net, which just means that soft lending will not occur regardless of resiliency. The confidence is in the mud. Second is yield G914. The market is not fast recession, but it's still consistent in 212 days. The economy is reported contraction since 10 years have below 3 months of telegraph last year. Recessions inevitable. 1 is superior stress tests happen every 7 years. Oh wait, COVID, 9/11, etc. The next one is coming soon. That's all look evidence. Second is black swans or true Baraka. 23. GDP is low circulation, tension, supply, fluctuation, rates and crisis, people losses, food and energy costs, dollar, increased trade around the coastal trade, investment steel, failing manufacturers, all past recession, preceded by total forecast of reduced investment, they also development of black swan, occurrences, foreseen nature markets. Third is inefficiency. Donald 6, 5 disaster, recession postponed, whether recession actually takes place, growth global 2.5%, global recession 50, below China, goods, energy, food, shifting, first means 2%, the cycles proving hawkish, markets are model global chains of privacy, rise governments allocated capital toward hedge and the plan solves the economy. 1 is recession. The plan is the counter-cyclical buffer that increases spending to reduce amount of after. That's evidence. It's not about the global peer, so domestic. Second is consumer spending. Econ. Not for the slow to reach child control. The pages will go faster. Domestic consumer spending is major for growth and entirely driven by increase in the supply of people looking for work. No crowd at forces private sector innovation and healthy competition to ensure better wages. Rising wages allow for consumer super spending, which we have said is good. Unions would have to show confidence at best deterrents bad business practices, which are not key to growth. No perverse incentives, cost rather buffer stuff for both, and no distortion. And the fifth thing, they're both not in the context of the affirmative. We have one that is position devil, but only the affirmative can prevent that from happening. Politics. No turns gates, but affirmative, but you need to use the affirmative story 22. Government check the shutdown will be catastrophic because shutdown happens because housing in the manageable for the economy. Shutdown has 100 growth and 18 S&P 500 falling. The shutdown will be better within the next month. This shutdown is an inevitable act of the furniture 2.0 and makes it more likely not unique. Regimes are some of the best cards of this debate and indicate the shutdown is likely. The GPA and spending deal and the deadline approaching contention is high, which means it's inevitable. None of the evidence assumes the 12 voting have to pass by the deadline. Yes, shutdown is evident in verse 915. Government shutdown Republicans to impeach on the side. Capitalism crisis defense could have the chaos lobbies of political unthinkable economy reports all over the book. There's no office plan political. The armor of the new coast which Democrats which is open there has been no movement. The link debate is backwards. The plans program lost the political file line because it's central to both the left and the right's political agendas. That's our Raymond Gordon evidence, which says that there's overwhelming political support for the guarantee. The cost of evidence indicates politicians will be able to adhere to the public because the plan, how they gain the legitimacy, which means even the public likes to guarantee it won't be contentious, especially true because when they misunderstood argument, if the plan's contentious, getting against passed means there'll be correctional momentum to pass new policies.
Okay, 310.
Order is econ disad, social instability advantage, human rights advantage, politics.
It's a very easy neg ballot. Conceding turns case to almost every argument on the econ test. That means that we have large inroads to their offense, but they don't have any to ours. So the LIO turns to trade is a blip in the 1AR, but it's also wrong. The LIO, according to their evidence, has been declining for a long time because of U.S. disrespects of human rights. But they consider the plan calls an instant kneecapping of the economy, which means that countries instantly turn inward and break down alliances, collapsing the LIO and the proliferation based on alliances. Offense extended in the 1AR. The uniqueness and link turn base so heavily negative when they conceded multiple warrants for why the econ is high and multiple link warrants for why they collapse it. Business confidence is irrelevant. They conceded this is not a business confidence dissad. They've not read BizCon key to the economy. Evidence in either of we, which means this does not take out uniqueness for the dissad, but they also conceded that business confidence is rebounding, proved by increased investment in capital, expenditures since 11, evidence in the 2NC yield curve, evidence in the 1AR. It's new. We shouldn't have to answer it because block decisions rely on 2AC cards, which they didn't read, but also the 11 evidence directly answers the yield curve. The yield curve argument says that rates are going to get lower in the future, which means that the yield curve inversion this time is not the same thing as previous yield curve inversions, which forecast a recession. Also, the yield curve is classic correlation, not causation. Just because the yield curve is inverted before a recession doesn't mean this is what caused a recession. It might have just been inverted because a recession was coming. The bad weather also happened before recessions, but it's not a good indicator. The recession inevitable stuff. 1, empirics, it's relevant. They conceded that global recessions don't matter because they're mutual and global, not about U.S. relative decline, which is the only internal link to our impact. The boroughs. The evidence says that U.S. Relative decline breaks down cooperation over emerging tech and enables Russian and Chinese hegemony, causing transition wars to go into nuclear. You can see that a couple of turns case arguments conceded means that they can't go for any offense of the 1AR1. They conceded that it turns democracy. The Porter evidence is amazing. It says that growth increases our tolerance of other nations. It makes us more accepting of democratic principles. Countries turn inward, becoming more isolationist and authoritarianism during periods of slow growth or recession, which means they can't go for alliances of proliferation. Offense black swans is wrong. The trend evidence answer it says that small economic blips aren't able to take down the entire economy because the economy is so diverse. It's the only question for the link debate is whether or not the app is overall good for productivity or bad. The inefficiency evidence, the Donald evidence flows neg. 1, it is wrong. They conceded the Delbad evidence says that all projections indicate the growth will be high for the foreseeable future. The economy is entering a Goldilocks period. Inflation is going to dip below 2%, while growth is still projected to be in the green for all projections within the near future. But we will concede that recession is not what matters. It is just the plan's impact on GDP growth. It is a direct line from the Donald evidence, which means that winning recession inevitable and plan solves recession is irrelevant to whether or not they're good for the economy. And we say if we're winning the direction of productivity links, they automatically lose because the only question for economic strength is total output and productivity. Plan solves first warrant as recessions. That's irrelevant. No evidence that's relevant else from above. It's mutual, global, and recessions don't matter. As per the Donald evidence, but no evidence says it's sufficient. The 2AC Geneva evidence was marked way before a warrant. It just says that recessions are bad and the plan increases spending, but there's no highlighted warrant in that card that says the plan increases spending enough to solve recessions or that any amount of increased spending is enough to reverse causally solve recessions. They don't even have evidence that says that decreased aggregate demand is the largest internal link to recession, which means they can't go for that. They can the unions turns this argument. No, it doesn't. They've read no evidence that this is the case, and it doesn't solve the links that I'm about to go for in the first place. A couple of conceded links prove that they are net worse for the economy. 1, they falsely conceded perverse incentives as a Coppola. Evidence administrators of their jobs guarantee will leave the most productive projects undone in hopes that those projects will remain open for future unemployment. They'll see that unemployment is not low enough now to justify deploying workers to the largest projects, but they'll wait to deploy them until unemployment is high enough in the future. It means that productivity now always lags behind adversaries, causing our impact. That's the Burroughs evidence. Distortion, the 1AR super oblivious says that only the app prevents it. That's wrong. They basically dropped that 1, the private sector is more productive than the public sector, and 2, the goods sector is more productive than the services sector. They conceded that a jobs guarantee would outcompete the private sector in the goods portion of the economy, forcing them to divert their attention to the services sector, which makes the economy net less productive because goods are better than services and the private sector is better than the public sector. Bureaucracy functionally conceded. Forcing innovation is not a carded warrant. You should default to Standing, who is an expert in the economy, rather than the assertions of high schoolers. It's wrong that it forces innovation. It makes cheap labor so it makes unproductive labor so cheap that it disincentivizes innovation in the short term. They conceded that innovation is key to all economic growth. It's the Al-Sabi evidence means that they structurally decline GDP growth. The more demand stuff already answered above. Take the politics dissad. Concede that shutdown is inevitable. That takes out the app because it ensures zero funding for the jobs guarantee. That's about good evidence. That is a presumption ballot clearly flagged in the block. The SOAR evidence only says that shutdown wouldn't last long, but all of their uniqueness evidence says there will be no end in sight to the shutdown. Everything else was answered by the dissad. Both advantages are turned. Alliances conceded turns. And conceded inward.
We have debated when the 2NR handed me a try or die ballot. They've not contested the asked impact, which means there's only a chance that we solve our impacts and that they cannot access them, which means you have to be 100% certain about Turn's case for you to even evaluate the dissent debate. They conceded that Trump it outweighs the second coming of Trump caused extinction by destroying alliance commitments, which greenlights alliance and nuclear proliferation in every major sphere, including the Middle East and East Asia, that caused quick escalation, global nuclear war, while also decimating U.S. credibility and giving China and Russia the reins. Only the plan solved by giving the FJG and workers what they want, which is the radar and Guardon evidence. They've conceded the LIO impact, which turns the dissent, heavily implicates the flow, and the LIO collapse prevents multilateral responses to every risk and ensures Chinese takeover in the interim, which caused extinction, which is an external impact that you can hang your hat on that the 2NR straight dropped. It turns the dissent LIO is the only way to mediate conflict in a world. The slow growth absent to countries like China will initiate conflict. Also turns collapse because global war can only be prevented by the LIO, which is the Haas evidence as well as the Harari evidence, which indicate that only multilateral structures can prevent things like economic decline from escalating to conflict, because there's a sort of mediating factor that prevents it in the first place. Politics. Drop the one-hour sword card that says shutdown would be a few hours at most and harmless in every facet of government. It's happened 20 times in the past and has not implicated anything. A few hours of a federal jobs guarantee shutdown does not implicate any of case because all our impacts are long-term. Econ. Uniqueness is heavily off. I don't have to win that a recession is coming now, just so one is inevitable. Black swans, and every 7 years the recession happens. COVID, 9/11, etc. all prove this. Saying that it's global is wrong. They dropped the Cherneva evidence, which says that in the U.S. the recessions happen every 7 years. It also says that a federal jobs guarantee is uniquely key to solve it. It says that it increases consumer spending, which I'll do now. It solves recessions. First, the plan creates a countercyclical buffer by boosting spending during downturns. When the private sector failed, workers can just move to the public sector and vice versa, which our Cherneva evidence indicates. They have not answered the thesis level claim that when the economy is high, that people will transfer to the private sector, which takes out their distortion link. Second is consumer spending. It's our Egan evidence, which is from last month with no answer. Slide just brushed over this. Giving people paychecks in a broad domestic manner is what our evidence says is the main driver of growth, which means that it's not just key to stopping recession, but it's also key to producing growth when a recession happens, which means we solve all of their slow growth offense. The link turn access is a stronger interlink to the economy and its terminal defense. It nullifies any of the innovation offense. Third is training. The 2NR has dropped the Darity evidence, which was on case. The link turns case. It's game over. The jobs guarantee boosts businesses and economic efficiencies by preparing the labor force in advance. Do not cross-apply the truancy analysis here for them, because the 2NR straight dropped it with workers delivering productivity, creating market stability, and balancing sector jobs. A well-trained workforce adds flexibility to the market, which enables companies to respond to shocks, and employees can be leased to private sector companies, which answers every link. The business confidence question is irrelevant because this card is about the economy broadly, which which implicates the whole dissent. It also means that we access both of their links. It accesses the distortion link, because even if the private sector is more productive, only we can make it. Only we can solve for it by inducing skilled laborers into the private sector, which solves the perverse incentive stuff. Is also wrong, because those projects will be done by new private sector trained employees. Obviously, we wouldn't just stop working on something when we know that it's productive to the economy. The consumer spending answers unemployment, and the Darity evidence says that public and private sector would work together, and says the guarantee would enhance productivity through increased training. It was a link turn on case that has no answers. Even if you think it's stupid, the 2NR straight dropped it, which means you cannot give them any credibility or do any analysis for them applying the links, because they did not do that for you. The LIO also turns this. It implicates the terminal impact to the dissent of slow growth, because it means that countries like countries that are modeling the U.S. economic system can only be successful in a world where the U.S. has credible commitments. The Haas evidence as well as the Harari evidence both indicate that slow growth is solved by the LIO. They do not have a terminal impact that is not solved by the AF, because they've dropped the Darity evidence, which says that we induce jobs into the private sector. They've only gone for links that are about the private sector that we solve for, and we have two external impacts that outweigh. Good bit.
Yeah.